Saturday games like channel here. It's not like a Saturday night.
No, it should be on the same channel. Is it not there yet?
Oh, yeah, I see it. Evening session. Okay.
All right.
I got it. So right now it's just showing the ballroom, I think. Right? Okay. It's nice to be able to see the chats. All right, if you want to let me know whenever you're ready.
I just got to wait for it to come up on the screen, and then I got to make sure it's not on automatic advance.
Oh, there we go.
Yeah, we're ready.
Hey, Dave.
All right. Welcome back.
I need a minute.
Yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit, Don, while you get your stuff going.
Yeah, I can't get to the. Are you a computer specialist? It's supposed to go on duplicate screens. It's supposed to go on duplicate screens.
You have it hooked up here at HDMI or anything?
Oh, I'm sorry. That's the missing link. Where's
There we go.
You got it?
No. All right, welcome back, folks. We have a few interviews in the next hour or so, and we're getting set up for one of those right now. My name's John Lieb. If you haven't been watching any of the other parts of the interviews, we've been here earlier talking to a few folks, and in the 7 to 8 o'clock hour, we are going to talk to some more. The people in the ballroom, the people in the Marriott have solved puzzles 1 through 6 in 2 sets of 3. You at home may have solved all 6 already, but you may not. And we won't talk about specific puzzles or their themes or spoilers. Up here. There we go. And in a moment, we will be speaking with Don Christensen, who plays a crucial role at ACPT. And right now, we're just trying to get a little tech set up live in person. So if you are watching, if you can let us know in the chat if you can hear us well. We got a microphone on the table. We also have a lot of people in the lobby playing some games and having a little fun. All right, Don, we got something up here.
Yeah, I'll be right there.
Okay. Excellent.
I'm hoping that's it.
Yeah, we got it right here. All right. So this is Don Christensen, and Don has been coming to ACPT for quite a long time. And Don, could you tell folks what your role at ACPT has been over the years?
Well, it's been a little crazy because when I first came here, it was in the early 1980s, and I found out about the tournament from a guy at work at an ad agency in New York because I was working on a client that sold pens and pencils, and a guy who worked at the agency with me knew Joe O'Darrow, who was one of the early solvers of ACPT, and he was always a top 10 finisher in the 80s. And this guy at work said, you should call Joe and get in touch with Will Shortz, and maybe you could give away the pens at the tournament, you know? So I called up Will, and he said, bring them all up. So I brought up all these pens, and everybody kind of laughed at me at the agency because most people don't solve in pens.
Yep.
Right? So I kind of got laughed at a little bit. The second year I came back, and Joe O'Darrow, one of our guys, let me back up here. One of our guys from the tournament took a liking to one of these pens, and
Starting to advance now, I think.
yeah.
Oh, you got it. Okay.
I got to go back to the beginning. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm trying to get it on the advancing to a click.
All right. So you came here with so you get Joel and
So
the pens.
Joel was like a really top solver, and he had been using these pens for practicing that I had given him. And the guy from People magazine says, "What's your secret to success?" And he holds up the pen that I had given him. And I thought he was kidding. I only found out about a month ago that he wasn't kidding.
Okay.
He really liked using that pen. But the guy from People Magazine wrote the name of the pen and the client's name and everything in the article. And People Magazine, I became an instant hero at the ad agency for getting this national publicity.
Excellent.
And so Will saw all this happening, and Will said, well, I need some pictures because I work at Games Magazine. Do you want to take pictures for me? And I said, yeah. He said, okay, I need like 2 a year. You know? So I started working with Will, and we just got to know each other, and after a while, it grew and grew and grew as the tournament grew, and the rest is history. I've been doing it. I haven't missed a year since.
And there's some wonderful galleries on the ACPT page, right? When you go to the page, you don't have to go to it now, but if you go to the ACPT page, there's most of those pictures, if not all of them, I imagine, are yours that are up there?
Not all of them, but most of them.
Most of them.
I have my own category, Don Christensen's photos.
Okay. So another reason Don's here tonight, not just to introduce him, his role as kind of the ACPT, kind of official photographer, is to speak about somebody who was involved in the Crossword world and ACPT for a long time. This is the 47th year, so there's been some wonderful personalities and people coming through here. So one of them who passed in 2024. So Don, do you want to tell people a little bit about Nancy Schuster, and then you're going to have a slideshow to narrate about her and about her role at ACPT. And
I'm just trying to set this up so it doesn't transition. I think I have to go through another method. I just need a second.
Okay, no problem.
I'm not a computer techie.
That's okay. I will say, after Don is here, we are going to have 2 of the other constructors of the puzzles, Ruth Margolan and Sid Sivakumar, will be coming on next after this. You may have solved puzzles by them today. You may not have, depending where you are in your solving. As you know, Puzzle 7 is tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock. Note the time there, and then Puzzle 8 is around midday with a championship puzzle. Hope you've had a good solving day. And then in the 8 o'clock hour, there's a variety of presentations tonight. I think the awarding of the Merl Reagle Award and some other things that are happening. What else is happening tonight, Dave?
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed something.
No, I'm just wondering, what else is happening tonight at the 8 o'clock hour?
There's the Merl Reagle Award, did you mention that?
Yeah, and there's a celebration of WordPlay?
Patrick Friedel is here, I think.
Okay, so the 20th anniversary of WordPlay?
That's right.
So
It came out in 05, right? So it would be 20 years.
So WordPlay, which you obviously many of you probably have seen. Okay. WordPlay that many of you have seen was much of that was recorded at the 2005 ACPT.
Right.
So this is the 20-year anniversary of that. I think it came out in 2006.
And yeah, the tournament became much more popular after that, or at least the following few years after that. You know, we got quite a few more people.
And late 2010s, early 2010s, it was in Brooklyn for a few years. But now it's moved back to Stanford. And somehow they're fitting about 900 solvers, including pairs.
More like 850.
850?
Yeah, something like that. But yeah, big crowd.
Excellent.
I think we got it. Sorry about that. I think we got it.
All right. Well, let's. If you could tell us a little bit about Nancy Schuster, and as you go through these slides.
Well, when I started coming to the tournament, it was around 1982 or so. So Nancy had already won the first tournament in 1978.
Okay.
So I wasn't there for that, but when I came on board, I knew that she was already a legend, even though the tournament was only a few years old. Nancy was already a legend, so I got to know her pretty quickly, and I knew her all the way up until last year. So I don't know, I'm not very good at math, but I known her many, almost 45 years.
Yeah.
And just like everybody else, when somebody once described her as Crossword royalty, we all felt that she was the queen. She was a tireless worker at ACPT, and so naturally I photographed her many times over the years. So I just wanted to do a little tribute to her. this year after having her pass.
Great. Well, thank you for doing that. And do you want to kind of advance the slides and talk about?
So there used to be a magazine called Crossword magazine, and they needed a picture every issue of a crossword legend for the cover. And this is the picture I took of Nancy for the cover of Crossword magazine.
Okay.
Way back in the 1980s.
Oh, cool.
So I made her sit for about 20 pictures of this, and this is our favorite one. Now, backing up a couple years, this is when she won the first tournament in 1978, and, oh boy, sorry. The award was presented to her by Margaret Fair.
Who was the predecessor of, well before...
She was the first crossword editor of the New York Times, starting in 1942. And I don't know how I can't stop this thing from...
That's all right. I think you just narrate maybe. I think it's fine if you just narrate as it advances along.
Yeah, so this is the famous Margaret Fair, the first crossword puzzle editor of the New York Times, presenting Nancy with her first place award in 1978. Now Margaret came to a couple tournaments in like 82, 83, and then she passed away about that time. So I got to photograph Margaret 2 times before she left us.
Okay.
So that was my honor, and I had no idea how famous she was at
exactly.
the time, because I had just been recruited by Will.
Yeah, you weren't versed in all the crossword history. And
no, I had no idea. So that's a picture of Margaret. I did not take, that's the only picture I did not take. So, I don't know if you can see that one. That's just another picture I took of Nancy along the way. And these are somewhat in chronological order, so you can see how she was here a long time, and she aged like all of us do. So yep. she must have been in her 40s when I first met her, and I think she passed away when she was in her 90s. So God bless her. Yeah, you do this so that it doesn't advance.
I think that's the button you're looking for.
See, I have it on auto advance. So in PowerPoint, I'm trying to get it to not move. I thought I had it done. In transitions. Is that it?
Just getting a little technical help here, folks. Trying to get the slides advancing.
Do you usually click this and it has the issues there? I think if it's like this.
See them? I think that's set for automatic advance. No, maybe you saved this. So we have a series of pictures of her just, oh shoot, it's now advancing again. I'm sorry. We have a series of pictures of her just that I took over the years, with no particular story to them.
Yeah, if you just maybe just show them and it kind of let them advance or advance them on your own.
You can see them. Yeah, we loved it when she wore her Nancy and Sluggo t-shirt, and that's her again. This is one of my favorites. We had a poster one year that showed Nancy as the first ever winner, and the previous year Ellen Ripstein had won, so I had them stand next to the poster as the first and the most recent winner. So that's that. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
Okay. And picture of Nancy always up on stage helping get people ready for the finals. This is when Ellen Ripstein was up on the stage many times, with Nancy Parsons in the background. Nancy Schuster with the famous David Rosen, who I just had dinner with 10 minutes ago. So David has many fond memories of Nancy too. Nancy with Deb Amlin from the New York Times.
Yeah, from WordPlay, writing WordPlay all those years.
And another lady who was a girlfriend of one of the judges at the time. I think her name is Robin Tobin or something. And in the background is Maura Jacobson's husband, Maura's husband, Jerry.
Oh, okay.
Who was often with her at the tournament, too. Go on to the next one. Oh, we always had to test the headsets to see if they were canceling out all the crowd noise. So this is more saying, can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me now?
Can you hear me now? And the guy's obviously saying, say it louder. So she was always up there testing the systems. Here she is with the famous Andrea Carla Michaels and Jim Horn, pretty well known.
Oh, Jim Horn of xwordinfo.com fame.
Yeah,
you don't see many pictures of Jim, so
that's Jim. Yeah, I think he was from the Seattle area.
Yeah, that's where he is. Yes.
So yeah, we tracked him down for this, and here with Matt Ginsberg, the creator of Dr. Phil.
Yeah, there was an automated computer program. Probably has stopped coming about 3 or 4 years ago, but Matt created Dr. Phil as a computer to solve all the tournament puzzles.
Maybe artificial intelligence, but he could solve the New York Times puzzle in seconds.
Yes, yeah.
So I think Dr. Phil came in maybe 6th in the tournament one year.
Yeah, sometimes Dr. Phil got tripped up by some awkward themes or themes that were nonsense words, but
missing squares and double letters.
Yeah, rebuses were tough. So Matt was well known for that.
Of course, this is one of my favorites. Nancy with Maura Jacobson, who we lost a few years ago too. And they were always hanging out together, during the ACPT. It was just a joy being friends with both of them. The tournament went to Brooklyn for 8 years, I believe, to the Brooklyn Marriott, because we outgrew this Marriott. So we had a lot of good times at that bar on Montague Street, where the judges used to go for dinner. And this is the upstairs dining room at that place, where we always had a lot of fun with Mike Nothnagel and Brendan Emmett quickly in the picture there. Pre-beer.
Yes, they are both here. This Mike Nothnagel is the head judge in the scoring room, and Brendan's also an official.
And
both still coming.
Here's a face from the past, David Kahn.
Oh yes, a longtime constructor and of many New York Times puzzles.
Yeah, he was quite a regular at ACP for a while. I haven't seen him in a while, but he was very frequent judge. And here's Nancy with Helene Hovanek, who was the tournament organizer and manager for quite a few years, and Liz Gorski.
Oh yes,
constructor. Yeah. Here's Nancy just with the crowd in the background. She was always present. See her aging, over the years, like we all do.
Exactly.
Yeah, so but she always came back to life. She is here's with Doug Ashley and Will, and I usually say, can somebody strike a pose, and Nancy would always,
be ready.
Be ready for that, so how's this done? She had a great sense of humor.
Awesome.
And here's Nancy with our friend from Amsterdam, I believe, Peter Ritmeister.
Yes.
Who's here this weekend. Comes all the way from the Netherlands to see us. And so I think this is the last picture I ever took of Nancy.
Wow. Okay.
This is quite recent. And I knew she wasn't feeling great. I could tell. Just backing up, one year, they told me to take a picture of these 2 awards. They were giving Nancy an award for her service over the years, and Jay Kosofsky. I don't know if you know Jay, but he had the record for the most tournaments in a row that he came to.
Oh.
And I forget what the number was, but he hasn't been coming recently. But he had record. He may still have the record. So they gave the 2 of them special awards that year. And my last foray with Nancy was doing the New York Times obituary photos. There was 2 obituaries for Nancy. One was the printed paper, and then the online paper. The printed paper ran that one picture, which was my favorite picture of Nancy from the start of the show, and then the online version had 5 or 6 pictures because they had more space.
Yeah, of course.
So I think that was it. I think that's our Nancy tribute. Sorry about the technical issue.
No problem at all.
We had it all worked out in the hotel room.
But thank you for sharing those wonderful memories of Nancy. And she was one person who's made an impact on the ACBT and the Crossword tournament world. And This tournament is full of people who have been coming for years and years and years and doing this service and being part of the community just because they love the people. And you especially are one of those people, obviously, taking photos year after year. And Don is from Friday night all the way till Sunday afternoon taking photos. And approximately how many photos do you take in a given weekend, would you say? Given ACBT weekend?
1,500 to 2,000.
Wow.
Of course, a lot of those don't make it. You know? But we have an archive system now with 8,000 pictures cross-referenced.
Oh, wonderful.
And captioned and archived now. So we have them in the Adobe Lightroom. So if we need pictures of Ellen Ripstein or something, we can
just pull it right up. That's wonderful.
We'll say, here's 35 pictures of Ellen, so we don't have to search for them.
That's a great historical reference.
Through 10,000, Will sponsored that project for us because newspaper reporters call me all the time. Do you have pictures of Will Wang or Paolo Pasco?
Yeah, when Paolo was the champion last year, they might say, hey, we're doing an article.
Yeah, we're doing an article. Do you have pictures? And it used to drive me nuts.
Scrolling.
Yeah, but now it's, thanks to Will, it's been all archived and indexed and everything. So.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you, Don, for appearing, and I'm sure you have more photos to take this weekend, and many photos to take before you sleep.
I think the WordPlay pictures tonight, we're going to do the 20th anniversary of WordPlay.
Are many of those pictures yours?
Yeah, I was here for WordPlay too, so that'll be fun.
Well, thank you, Don, for coming on. If you give us a moment, we're going to just clear off Don's stuff and bring some other constructors on in a moment, so just give us about 30 seconds to get settled.
Hey, Ruth.
Is that everything? Okay. All right, we have one of the constructors of the 8 puzzles at the tournament, Ruth Margolan, and welcome.
Thank you.
I didn't get a chance to look at expert info, but about how many New York Times puzzles are you up to now?
About 15.
Okay, excellent.
Maybe 16, I forget.
Wonderful. And a mix of all days, I believe, right? You've had
They've all been Tuesday through Thursday.
Tuesday through Thursday, so a lot of themed puzzles. And when you are writing a themed puzzle, and not too much of a spoiler, but it was a themed puzzle you had for this tournament. What are some types of themes you like to write as you've kind of gone through your constructing?
I like
journey?
wordplay. So, I was just having a conversation about people using a lot of technology to find their thematic material. I don't have skills in computer programming to go deep diving in that direction.
Find all the instances of this happening or this happening.
Right.
Yeah.
But I just might find an interesting idiom, and of course English has a lot of interesting idioms, and use that as a springboard to find the, I hope, clever words that come from it.
And let me just back up maybe a little bit. How did you kind of start your constructing? Was it as a long-time solver and then beginning constructing, or did you discover crosswords and constructing at about the same time?
I came to crossword solving as an adult.
Okay.
And was probably doing it for, 5-ish years before getting that kind of sense of solving a puzzle and well, I could do that. And so I began to try and failed a lot and finally succeeded.
Yeah, so now that you've been writing puzzles for a while, does it, I know when I first started constructing, I would write a puzzle and just getting the words to fit and anything, I would submit it, and it probably had no chance of being accepted. And now, after you construct for a while, I imagine your standards are higher, and you're like, well, I'm not even going to bother submitting this because it's not quite, or maybe you ditch a theme earlier because it's not quite there.
Right. I certainly am aware of the standards and try to meet them, and I think I do meet them on a lot of rejected puzzles. but that's just the numbers game of it. You know, there's so many people constructing, so many puzzles submitted, and on average they can only accept 7 a week, right?
Yeah, and I don't know the exact numbers, but the last 4 or 5 years, I think the numbers have dramatically increased.
Darn that COVID. Everybody's stuck at home.
And everybody working and everybody discovering, different activities. And even now with all the word games that are out there, I think a lot of the Wordles, the Strands are kind of gateways into Crossword, especially the Mini even.
But that's gateways as a solver. But then more and more people get that inclination, the same inclination I had.
Well, that's what I said. They say, like, I can do this.
Yeah.
I can do that.
But don't start trying. We don't need more
We
competitors.
don't need any more. And could coming up with a theme, not necessarily for this tournament, but just a theme in general, is it something where something strikes you, or do you sometimes say, I want to write a puzzle and let me sit down and write, think for an hour and brainstorm, or is it a mix of both?
It's a mix of both. I have a regular gig of a monthly puzzle in my local paper.
Okay.
So circulation, I don't know, little. But it's a fun monthly gig. So for that, I do have a deadline to meet, and I need to sit down and think of a theme. For my submissions to the New York Times, I wait for some kind of inspiration, but it can come anywhere. It can come, I've heard phrases on the radio that spark something. I've seen billboards that spark some idea. An accidental spoonerism at a gala dinner, somebody speaking and flipping things. So, anywhere that something strikes me, I might go home. Well, I'll be counting the letters.
14, 15, 16, no.
Right.
Excellent. And I didn't check on this, so I apologize. This is not your first puzzle at this tournament, is it? Or
it's my second
your
puzzle
second?
at this tournament, but the other one was, this is now for digital solvers, but mine was supposed to be here in person in April 2020.
Oh, okay.
So everybody was doing it online.
So this is your first time in person seeing your, in the room. But you've come to ACPT many times other than that. So can you just say maybe as our kind of final question, do you a favorite thing about being at ACPT or a favorite memory of being here just among the crowd?
I think what I like about it is that it takes my very solo pursuit, me at home with a computer, it takes that out of my isolation, and I get to meet the people who do what I do and enjoy what I enjoy, and that's really a pleasure.
Great. Well, thank you for joining us tonight, and enjoy the rest of this evening and the festivities tonight and being here and being among folks. So thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
So I found Will first. I'll tell him the after Will.
Excellent. So we'll get, as we switch here, we get Don, thank you, getting
If you need any
his...
tech support, just let me know.
Thank you, Ruth.
I think I've always said Margolan and it's Margolan. Okay. That's fine. Well, I was not too far now. Okay.
All right, so we have 2 more guests in this little slot here, and the first one, as I say, needs no introduction, as they say. We're happy to have Will Shortz before the evening festivities come on and join us. Hello, Will.
Hey there.
Great to see you.
Great to see you, John.
All right, that's right under you. You're
Down
good.
gently.
There
Ready.
we go. All right. So the 47th ACPT.
Can't you believe it?
That's amazing.
I was 25 when I started this.
Excellent. Did you have ever any thoughts that it would become something of?
I wasn't even sure about year 2.
And maybe just for folks who don't necessarily know all the history of it, how did it end up at the Stanford Marriott's?
So I was working at Penny Press, the Crossword company, Crossword magazine company, which happened to be in Stanford. I tell you, when I was younger, I had made plans for a puzzle convention or a crossword convention, never really imagining that such a thing would happen. So I was working at Penny Press, and the Stanford Marriott Hotel opened in 1977. There was a director of marketing who read an article in New York Magazine about a British crossword championship. He thought it would be a good idea, a way to bring business to a slow winter weekend at the hotel, to have a crossword tournament. He called Eugene T. Molluska, who was the crossword editor at the Times then, and Eugene said he wasn't interested in doing this. He recommended he recommended a crossword constructor here in Stanford named Norton Rhodes, who was a friend of mine. And Norton said, the person you should get is Will Shortz. So I just sort of lucked into this because I was a friend of Norton's. Something Stan Newman tells me, and he's the recipient of the Merl Reagle Award this year. He says, it's not who you know that matters, it's who knows you.
Yeah.
And that worked out for me.
Excellent. And every year it just kept on going and going, and here we are at year 47. I'm curious, as you assign puzzles to folks, about certain themes, there's a certain rhythm to the puzzles. One is a little easier, two, there's a certain rhythm you have. When you assign themes, do you tell people, hey, this is going to be, I'd like this to be puzzle number 2 of the tournament. I'd like this to be puzzle number 4 or 5. It's going to be a little harder. Do they get those marching orders?
Yes, their marching orders are determined partly on the size of the puzzle. So 1 and 4 are 15s, 2 and 5 are 17s, 3 and 6 are 19s, 7 is a 21 Sunday size.
Yep.
And the playoff puzzle, of course, is a 15 with 3 sets of clues. So they know the difficulty and the size, then they do whatever they want.
So there's no, as especially newer solvers, there's various types of themes. There's never on to say a 19 or a 21 to say, I'd like an add a letter, or I'd like this or that. If you're doing the 21 on Sunday morning, writing that puzzle, it's come up with a fun theme that would be a good Sunday puzzle. It doesn't necessarily have to fit a certain criteria besides clever and fun.
That's correct. Some of the constructors tell me their ideas beforehand if they'd like feedback, but I never require that. And often puzzles 1 and 4, which are 15s, I select when all the other puzzles come in. I select them from the New York Times inventory.
Okay, from ones you think are appropriate. Yeah.
Yes, and I ask them, would you be willing to have your puzzle in the tournament instead? For example, Ruth Margolan Bloomfield, who has puzzle 1. She also had the puzzle, I think, in 1999. No, she had the puzzle in 2021.
Yeah, that's what she said.
But it was a virtual tournament.
Yeah, that's what she told us that.
So now she was able to watch her puzzle in person. Dave Bolton and Jane Stewart, who did make the acrostics for the Times, they had the acrostic in a warm-up competition last night, and they were so thrilled to watch people in person solve their puzzle.
Wonderful.
Especially a tricky one that had, answers. There weren't really words in the puzzle.
Yeah. Now, I imagine there are a lot of aspiring constructors or constructors out there who have submitted to the Times, and as you know, when you submit to the Times, you submit the grid and the clues. When you are taking tournament puzzles, do the constructors who are doing the theme puzzles submit the grid to you first and get approval there, and then they do the clues, or do they just do it all at once and trust that?
It's up to them what they do. Mike Shank always just makes the puzzle,
and here
whatever it is, and it's always perfect. Patrick Barry, when he makes a puzzle for the tournament, same thing.
Yeah.
Some people like to get feedback, so I'm happy to give it if they want it. Puzzle number 5, I don't know.
I have not done it yet. We haven't really discussed spoilers, and I'd like to solve it myself later.
Okay, I won't spoil, except I'll say when Sid Sivakumar sent it to me, it was way harder than the version you'll see.
Okay. I'm sure solvers everywhere thank you for that. I'd love it if you maybe say a word of how technology has changed kind of the puzzle process, or not just the process, but the types of puzzles you're seeing. Obviously, not having to do everything on graph paper and erase and enable certain things. What are some things in technology that you think has enabled puzzles to either be different? I'm not saying necessarily better, but different than what you've seen, even you used to see?
Technology has made puzzles better in a number of ways, and it has helped the tournament too. First of all, on the puzzles, I think we're living in the golden age of crosswords. They have never been better than they are right now. I was just talking to Joe DiPietro last night. He was one of the top themeless constructors in the 1990s and early 2000s. He says, he doesn't feel his work is as good as what's appearing now because of all the tools that construct. There's livelier, more colorful vocabulary than ever, more daring fills, and so
even the structure of some of the grids are probably more open than they possibly were able to do before technology.
Just a daring vocabulary. If you were doing it by hand, you would never try to put in a few crazy, wonderful phrases like you get now because they would never make the crossings work.
Yeah.
But with construction software, you can achieve more. Also, for cluing, it used to be the clues would come out of a few dictionaries and maybe an encyclopedia. Now you have the entire internet to help you come up with interesting clues.
Yeah, research, fun facts. But it's a wonder to me, and just doing times puzzles and puzzles across the blogosphere and things like that, is that there's no substitute for the cleverness of a question mark clue or a fun way of doing that. That's not something necessarily.
It has to come out of the head.
Yeah, just an inspiration of turn of a phrase, or especially on a Friday, Saturday, the question mark clues.
And here's another thing that technology has helped with. It used to be the only feedback that the constructors got was from me as editor. They send me their puzzle, and I'd comment on it when it was returned, or maybe they had a friend or family that would comment. Nowadays, you go onto a blog when your puzzle appears and see what everybody is saying about it.
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be your puzzle. You can read about what everyone is saying about everybody's puzzles. That, I think, has helped raise the standards.
Yeah, about what people think about puzzles and what
they like and what they don't like.
And I know as a constructor that helped me to understand what do people like about certain puzzles and what do people appreciate in a puzzle. It's not necessarily the things I want to put in, or you want to try to make a puzzle that appeals to as many people as possible and is fun.
That's true. And then for the tournament, technology, you might say, has helped because it spreads the word of the tournament. Because even though millions of people solve crosswords, they're not written about that much in the press. So we have this niche interest, and people find out about it by reading the blogs and seeing things online. So they find out about the event. And this was our largest ACPT ever. Our registration closed after it opened on January 1 and closed on January 14. And so for the last 2.5 months, it was closed basically.
Yeah, and that's even within the last 2-3 years that wasn't the case. This feels like sooner than ever this year.
Sooner than ever, and I feel terrible about that. So we're working to see what we can do next year. Because I hate to turn anybody away. If you want to come to the tournament, I'd like you to be able to.
Excellent. Well, we're getting closer to 8 o'clock, and I know. Can you tell us what we have in store tonight? I know the Merl Award is going to be awarded to Stan Newman. I'm sure some pictures of Stan and people talking about Stan.
Yeah.
And then this is, I believe, my first ACBT was, I believe, 2012. I came as a solver, but 2005 is when the folks from WordPlay filmed scenes of the ACPT, right? Okay, so it's the 20th anniversary of WordPlay being filmed.
Yeah. So we're going to celebrate both those things tonight. For Stan, I'm going to do a PowerPoint presentation showing his life, I guess, and his all-time great hits on puzzles. And there's a friend of his who filmed him in Florida at home, interviewing him and showing around his house, so we'll get to see that. And then for WordPlay, Patrick Creedon, the director, and Christine O'Malley, the producer, have chosen snippets from the film, which they'll present and discuss them. And then I will have a lot of people here this weekend who are in the film. They'll be invited to say a few words too.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, on behalf of solvers everywhere, I want to thank you for all you've done over the years in creating this event, but also Crosswords just in general. I was over at Barnes & Noble with my daughter in the lunch break or the dinner break, and I was in the puzzle aisle and looking at the Will Shortz things, and one of the titles caught my eye because it made me chuckle. the compilations have different titles, but this one was Every Day I'm Puzzling, rather than Every Day I'm Hustling, the song. But Every Day I'm Puzzling, and that sums up kind of what you've been doing over the last 50 plus years. And
It's amazing. I've never dreamed a career like this, but it's fantastic for me.
all right, well, thank you, Will.
Thanks a lot, John.
It's really a pleasure to have you on here, and look forward to the evening events. And
Thanks a lot.
You'll be seeing all those from the ballroom. So we're going to transition. We have one more interview before the 8 o'clock, so just give it a minute or two. Yeah, we can open that door. All right, great. Thank you, Will.
All right, let me sit.
Okay, awesome.
Your head with me on
All right. So we have one more constructor to speak with before 8 o'clock. It will be Sid Sivakumar, who if you've done puzzles, the theme puzzles today, he did have one of the theme puzzles, and I don't feel like I'm spoiling this because he did have the finals puzzle last year, and I don't think there's been many cases where the same constructors had the finals puzzle back to back. So Sid will be with us in a moment. Sid does a lot of things in the crossword world, and here he comes. Come around this way, Sid. Welcome.
Hey.
Come on down.
Right here?
Yeah, right here is perfect. We are live. So I was just telling folks that you had the championship puzzle last year, so not a spoiler to say you don't have it this year. Will never really does that back to back.
That's a fair assumption.
Yes. And before we get going, you're doing a lot of things in the crossword world. Could you say some of the things you're involved in the crossword world?
Sure. Well, I of course write crosswords from time to time in different places. So the New York Times has been very kind to take many of my puzzles over the years. And you may or may not see, I'm actually not sure when you'll see one of mine there. I just did the Super Mega for the New York Times, the Puzzle Mania edition.
Oh, yes, this past, I need to ask you about that.
Okay, yeah. So in December, the New York Times recently has been doing these Puzzle Mania editions, these large spread puzzle packs that come in the print newspaper. So Joel asked me if I would do that, and I said I was very daunted. I said that seems really hard, but I'll give it a shot. And it was a really rewarding experience, also very tough to make, but that was very fun. And in addition to that, I'm also, besides ACPT, I construct for some other tournaments. I've been involved with Lollapuzzoola in past years. I've constructed for Bosswords, as you know, of course. And I just constructed one of the puzzles for the inaugural Midwest Crossword Tournament.
Yes, okay,
in Chicago
great.
in October. So people ask me all the time, or have been asking me today, when are you going to compete in a tournament? I really don't think I will, again, because it's too fun to be on this side. I always have enjoyed being the puzzle writer, not the puzzle solver. So I think I'll keep doing that as long as I get opportunities to do that. And then besides that, I'm also a staff editor for the AVCX Plus, which is an indie crossword conglomerate service. Basically, it's just a bunch of us who make puzzles we love, and we charge a fair price for them. And we pay fairly as well. So that's avxwords.com for folks who want to do that. Yeah. So that's some of the things that I'm doing.
Now, we did spoil a little bit with talking to Will that you did have Puzzle 5.
Okay.
We can say that, and which is traditionally the hardest puzzle, the trickiest theme. And without getting into the spoilers about the theme, when you're asked to make a Puzzle 5, how long? What was the thought process like? How many different iterations of this idea? Was it the first idea you came up with? Was it, the third? Did it go through a lot? Will did say what we saw as solvers, or what solvers saw, was it was easier than what you first submitted. But yeah, can you speak about that process a little bit?
That tends to be the case with anything I sent to Will, is that the version that you see as a solver is easier than what I sent to Will, in general. Yeah, and I think that's for good reason. Will has a really good finger on the pulse of what solvers can and cannot do in the time limit. So actually, this puzzle idea started as a pitch. So I pitched the idea to Will, and I said, this might be interesting for ACPT, it might be interesting for the Times, or something else. It was just a concept. It wasn't a full grid or a theme. It was a theme, but not a full grid. I won't spoil what it is. And Will said he simmered on it for a little bit, and he said, yeah, let's do this for the tournament. And so that was already in place, the idea. Now, again, I won't spoil it, but the execution of actually making the puzzle was very, very hard.
Okay.
Yeah. So
when people do the puzzle and they
Yes,
see
yeah,
how it got executed, there's a lot of hours behind that.
exactly, I hope people appreciate that. Not to say that other puzzle types or even other puzzles at the tournament are not also difficult to make, but I think this particular theme, sort of like architecturally, was challenging in its own way. So I went through, I want to say 80 iterations, which is actually not unusual for me, like even for simple ideas.
We were talking to Will earlier about how technology has helped over the years, and you can do 80 with the computer, not the graph paper.
That's right. I would definitely not. I would not even crack one if I had to do it in graph paper.
Yeah.
But yeah, I went through many iterations, and a lot of that is also that I want to be fair to solvers. Solvers not only are a pain, but they have a genuine love for the art form, and they also are invested in being able to solve the puzzle.
Yeah.
Not merely because it's a certain achievement for Puzzle 5 particularly, but also because they want to see the puzzle being done. They want to see the art form being finished. Unlike a painting or something else, it's finished. A puzzle is something that the solver has to interact with to finish the art.
Yeah.
Which I think is really beautiful, but it also means that you want to make, as a constructor, you want to make a puzzle that people can solve. So in order to do that fairly, I went through many iterations of the puzzle to get it to a place where they could do that.
Yeah, next thing I was going to ask you is, as a constructor, why do you like to construct? And clearly, one of the things you feel is a sense of responsibility to the solver. It's a collaboration. Like, I'm going to make something that will challenge you, but that I want you to finish. Is there anything else about writing a puzzle you enjoy besides that collaboration?
I love the idea that I'm sort of like teeing up the solver to then have this experience to finish the puzzle. I really do feel like I make millions of collaborations every time I make a puzzle that gets published in the Times, for example, because millions of people who solve it are finishing what I've teed them up to do. And that's each person's experience, which is unique to them. In addition to that, I also think that my day job is a scientist, and I'm a physician in training, and so many problems in science that we deal with, like scientific questions, don't have answers. And so I like having a hobby / side job where there is an answer, and I can design it such that it is reachable.
Yes.
So I love that part of it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, again, you've been coming to ACPT for several years now. I've seen you over the last few years. Any particular reason you keep coming back? I mean, you have a puzzle now, but even if you didn't have a puzzle, I know you would be here. What about ACPT kind of draws you in every year?
It's like a family reunion. I mean, it's also a big networking event for people who are in the industry, but it's really just the people are lovely. I was saying this many times today. Crossword solvers are inherently curious and intelligent. And those are the characteristics that make for really kind, nice, warm, inviting people. And that's definitely the case here. And everybody knows you, not just because you have a name badge on, but they really know who you are, know your work, and really appreciate the experience we're building together. So really, it does feel like a family reunion.
Excellent.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier xwordinfo.com, which has data on all New York Times puzzles, and one thing you can do is go to a constructor's page and see what dates they've had puzzles in the Times. And if you haven't done Sid's work, or if you just have come to the New York Times the last couple of years, I'd encourage you to maybe find some puzzles in the archive that Sid has done and check them out. There's a great mix of Sunday puzzles, themeless puzzles. You kind of work across the board. So encourage you to check Sid's work out. And Sid, thank you for appearing tonight.
Thanks, John. I hope
Great
people know that you're also not just a great constructor, but also just a great personality in our community.
Oh, thank you, Sid.
Yes.
I appreciate that, and it's always been fun working with you on Bossword's puzzles. So
Awesome.
have a good rest of your night.
Thanks, John.
All right.
Appreciate it.
All right, folks. So we are coming up on 8 o'clock. I think after we finish here, I think we'll probably focus.
I just want to thank you as well.
Oh yeah, come on in. Dave Sullivan, do you maybe Dave has a few words to say about the online experience? Many of you have been through 6 puzzles today. Dave has been the one releasing them and working on the scoring, and I know from personal experience working on scoring at tournaments it can be a challenge, and there's all kinds of things. How's it been going today?
It's been going really well. It's a lot of work, but it's work I enjoy. Just like Sid enjoys what he does, I enjoy what I do too, and I'm hoping that I'm helping making the experience at home as great as it can be. It's almost like being here. But my main reason for coming over was to thank John. for doing these interviews. It's the first year that we're doing something like this, and I think him being a constructor himself, I think is the ideal person to be asking questions of other constructors, because you know what kind of questions to ask, and so I really appreciate that. And I guess I just want to close and hope again you have a great weekend. You won't see us on the live stream tomorrow. We just have Puzzle 7 in the morning. That'll be released around 9 o'clock. And then there are other things until the finals tomorrow at noon. But again, send us your feedback. And you do have till Monday at midnight to solve the puzzles this weekend that have come out this weekend.
And I'm assuming the stream will start, when things start at 9 o'clock in there with announcements, the stream will be showing that and everything. And you'll get to see the finals is a wonderful thing to see on the stream. I know when I've been in person the last couple of years, I kind of sit outside the room and watch it because you can see all three screens, all three boards up on the stage in a way you can't really even in person. So you, for the finals, you do have the best seat in the house there. So Dave, thanks for all your work.
Okay.
And I think we're going to sign off now and turn things back over to the ballroom, and at about 8 o'clock there's some more programming. So thanks for watching, and as you said, if you have feedback for Dave, this could be hopefully something we do next year with even maybe a little more robust interview schedule and trying to get as many people as possible. But hope it was
and maybe and some of you who will be here in person. Yeah, we'd be glad to talk to you as well about your first in-person experience versus solving at home.
Excellent. All right. Well, good night, everybody, and enjoy the rest of the evening, and good luck on Puzzle 7 tomorrow.
All right. Thank you. That's a wrap.
My role is hurting my head.
Oh, no kidding. For Christmas, as a surprise. So I only did it. He sent me a list of their sweets. So I could calibrate their sizes, but that doesn't mean anything. You so he did that different twice. Guess what? Last summer, he said, call me early.
Of all of them or just the two?
All of them.
It's a different kind of.
So I did. He was I don't like that. I'd send it stuff that I did. 20 years just I do I'll have to do that. I'll have to keep that saying in mind about how the only thing that he missed. I heard they were saying like
Ellen, freelance captain.
But it is so they all belong. That doesn't look like I did. Maybe that's the I know! Tim said that. He said, are you going to have a big card? Yeah, I didn't put it on Facebook. It is uncomfortable. It is. No.
Oh, wow.
Hello.
So far, it's all
Personal best. I think everybody in the room is guest. Oh yeah. They're open for you.
Right? Holy cow. I never got to do it. It's hard. I feel like it's something like an encyclopedia, like different to it. You have to read it. Oh my god. No way. I finished Puzzle Bob with like 27 which I don't usually finish. But I thought this was a year because I actually finished it. I can see that. I
Well, welcome everybody. We have a great program tonight. You know, we have the celebration coming up of the 20th anniversary of the filming of WordPlay. But
First, we have the awarding of the Merl Reagle Memorial Award, and this is actually the 9th year that it's been awarded, not the 8th as I put in the schedule. And it's for lifetime achievement in crossword construction. This award came about because our friend Merl Reagle died, I think, in 2014, and his partner, Marie Haley, suggested having an award in his memory for a lifetime achievement in crossword construction. And this award is voted on annually by a diverse group of crossword constructors, editors, and bloggers. And this year, the award goes to my friend Stan Newman of Newsday. And I'll tell you a little history of Stan. I first met him in 1981 here at the ACPT. There was this blazingly fast solver who was first to finish every puzzle, but I'm afraid was not so accurate. And if memory serves, Stan, you tell me, my memory is that you finished 11th that year.
13th.
13th. Close enough. So what he did for the next year, at home, he solved crosswords and he made flashcards for himself in order to solve faster and better. And the next year, Stan came back and won the ACPT. And in those days, or in 1982, the playoffs were held on overhead projectors. Stan was on the right there, and he was blazingly fast as usual, but this time he was accurate. So here he is receiving his award from Margaret Farrer, the first New York Times crossword editor. There were 3 major crossword contests that year. There was the ACPT, there was one at the old Grossinger's Resort in the Catskills, and there was a 3rd championship that Games Magazine hosted at the US, it was called the US Open Crossword Championship, and Stan really dressed up for the event. This was the first time that the playoffs were ever held on large boards, and you can see Stan accepting his first place finish there with his board behind him. There was a fantastic amount of publicity that year in print media, television, radio, and everything else. And Stan became a celebrity in 1 year. Now at the time, Stan worked on Wall Street. He was a stock analyst, if I remember.
Bond analyst, damn
A
close.
bond analyst, close enough. And he was really liking this crossword. He constructed his first crossword for sale for Miriam Raphael's book, Champion Crosswords, number 5. Okay, I'll get this. There, it just was, oh jeez. A moment ago, I couldn't get this to go forward at all. There it is, and his puzzle was puzzle number 1 in the book, and Mimi wrote a blurb pointing out that Stan is a champion at solving crosswords, and now he is making them as well. And there's his puzzle. The grid is filled with middle names of famous people, like, can't remember which ones. One of them might be, the clue would be Henry Longfellow, and you would write Wadsworth in the grid.
I can answer that. If
Yes,
you
what
know.
else?
They included Charles Lindbergh.
Charles Lindbergh's middle name,
Black,
whose middle name was Augustus?
correct.
Charles Lindbergh's middle name was Augustus, and so that's what you filled in the grid.
Hugo Black, the famed Supreme Court
The
Justice.
Supreme Court Justice Hugo Black.
Lafayette was his.
Lafayette was middle name. Okay, I think we
one.
get the idea.
There you go. The other one I must mention, George Gershwin's middle name.
George Gershwin's middle name.
N-O-N-E was the answer to that.
N-O-N-E, really?
Correct. He had no middle name.
Oh, he did not have a middle name. Well, that's tricky. So Stan launched something called the Crossworders' Own newsletter. Really, and it was part of what was called the new wave of crosswords. In those days, the New York Times Crossword was edited by my predecessor, Eugene T. Maleska, who is a former school superintendent and a lover of opera. And the grid had sort of his puzzles had sort of an old-fashioned, stuffy, dictionary-ish feeling to them. So Games Magazine, where I was a leader in the new wave of puzzles because we had a younger audience. And Stan launched a new wave in this publication called Crossworders' Own newsletter. And there was a lot of publicity in those days about this new wave because it was a controversy between the old generation of puzzlers and the new ones. And anytime anyone asked me about this for publicity, yeah, I would say give my opinion quietly. But Stan was not quiet about this. He was right out there battling Maleska, and there were articles. There was a lot of media. For example, this article 75 down, intersecting epithets. Here, Eugene T. Maleska fights the ripple. The ripple being the new wave. There were crosswords. Well, I'll show you another one in a moment. It's not just me.
Oh, there it is.
Oh, it skipped a lot.
Oh, it skipped. Let's see, let's go back. Okay, well there should be. I could have sworn there was another one. Maybe I skipped one. Well, you get the idea. There was a lot of media. And there was one article in Manhattan Inc. magazine, yes, they had quoting both Maleska and Stan Newman, where Maleska called Stan a pipsqueak. Gotcha. So in 1988, Stan started a Sunday crossword in Long Island Newsday, which had the modern style of crossword. And after a few years later, Newsday started a daily crossword that Stan edited. But they didn't really pay Stan very much. So finally after several years, Stan said, after 5 years, he said, I can't keep doing this for Newsday if you can't pay me more, and they said they wouldn't pay him more, so Stan recommended one of the syndicated crosswords that was available then. That was in the newspaper for 2 weeks, and then on New Year's Day, I believe, the editor called...
January 15th.
January 15th. Stan's editor called Stan, said, "Happy New Year, Stan. The wallpaper in my office is peeling." He said they'd gotten over 1,000 calls, letters, and emails of complaint about the new puzzle. And the quote was, Stan says, the editor asked, "What would it take to bring you back?"
Exactly right.
So Stan got in his car and drove down to Newsday, and they came back with a contract to continue making crosswords for the paper at a more fair rate. And today, Stan's crosswords appear in more than 200 papers across the country, including the website of every Gannett paper. So sometime in the 1990s, I guess around 1992,
1990, damn close.
1990, Stan got a job as editor or in charge of the puzzle books at Random House, one of the major book publishers, of course. And Stan, Random House was responsible for reprinting the crosswords from the New York Times. And they had been publishing books of puzzles edited by Eugene Maleska for years. And they had maybe, I hate to say the number, maybe 5 years worth of unpublished in puzzles of Maleska's in book form. And Stan thought, why should we keep publishing Maleska's puzzles when now Will Shortz is at the New York Times when I started in 1993? So there's all those late puzzles of Maleska's that were ignored in book publishing, and Stan started publishing my crosswords in the Random House collections. And he also published collections of his own puzzles from Newsday, as well as puzzles created by yourself, probably.
Most of those were from Newsday.
Yeah, these are Newsday collections. Stan also edited or co-edited, co-compiled the best crossword dictionary that you can get. Most old crossword dictionaries are full of obscure words from the depths of the unabridged dictionaries, which were very useful in solving the old-fashioned crosswords. You know, if you needed a three-letter word for Roman god, it's lar, of course. But nowadays, you don't come across lar much in puzzles. So what Stan compiled answers from actual crosswords, modern crosswords, and compiled the million-word crossword dictionary. So if you ever, nobody in here needs a crossword dictionary, but if you're ever to recommend one to someone else who needs help, I would recommend the million-word crossword dictionary. Stan is also a maven at trivia, and he created a book called 5001 Answers. Is that
15,003.
Well, you originally had 10,002.
10,000.
He had one called 10,002 Answers, the Ultimate Trivia Encyclopedia. Well, I guess it wasn't the ultimate one, because then there was a 15,003 Answers. Stan went on to, I don't have a clip of this, but he went on to a show called The Challengers, a trivia show. What network had that?
It was syndicated. It was on NBC in New York.
It was a syndicated show on NBC in New York, but it was shown everywhere. And Stan just won and won and won. He eventually won over $110,000.
$112,000, but damn close.
And after his win, they changed the rules so no one would ever win that amount of money again.
No one ever did.
And no one ever did. So I'll show you a few of my favorite crosswords that Stan has made for me at the New York Times. This is one of his early ones. Famous people who have seasons in their names. We have Lord Snowden, we have Jonathan Winters, and we have, this is all cold weather, Robert Frost, where the answers, just a nice simple theme, you know, with good vocabulary. That's what you want. That's what you want.
Oh, that's not yours. That's the one.
Oh, that's, you know, that's my, I don't know if you could hear that. That was my ringtone on my phone, which someone else has. And I always say that when I hear that ringtone, I know it's my phone because I'm the only person crazy enough to have it. Well, someone else here has that crazy ringtone. This one was it was for April Fool's Day. Nowadays, you know, we try to do a tricky crossword. This is just an old-fashioned April 1 theme that has an exploding cigar, a squirting flower, and sneezing powder, which are three things you give your friends on April 1st. Stan's first Sunday crossword for the Times has, let me refresh my memory. Yes, it was called Author's Other Jobs, and he took the names of famous authors and told you what they did before or other than writing. Can you remember a few examples, Stan?
Oh, gosh. It was for New York was Book Country. That was...
Yes, so there used to be this annual event in New York City in Manhattan called New York is Book Country, where there were all the publishers and people selling books would have booths up and down Fifth Avenue. And the New York Times helped sponsor this. So I like to do a literary crossword for that Sunday. And Stan made this puzzle
I
for...
remember a couple of them. Dick Francis was a jockey, and he wrote all about
Dick
books.
Francis is a jockey.
Walt Whitman was a nurse during the Civil
Walt
War.
Whitman was a nurse. And there were these other occupations that are sprinkled throughout the grid. And then there was a literary theme to many of the non-theme clues. So it was really a very beautiful literary puzzle. This puzzle appeared in 2011 and was phrases that have zero in them. We have appetizer order, has zero hidden inside it. Bill Mazeroski and Wurlitzer, Oregon. And then look in the upper right corner, the down answer, you see OOO, which are also zeros. And then in the lower left, you see zip, which is a little bonus, which is very pretty. There we go. This was a puzzle that appeared on Thanksgiving Day in 2014, and the answer for the main across answer at the top was Thanksgiving words, and everyone, of course, is thinking of the holiday, and that's a Thanksgiving in another language. You see merci beaucoup, that's also Thanksgiving, and then coming straight down the middle of the grid, elegantly crossing those two, is grazie mille. Those are all Thanksgiving words. And I skipped one puzzle I wanted to show you. The long answer says, every one of the clues has exactly 4 syllables. Sam made a very elegant puzzle that he could clue that way. And then my all-time favorite Stan Newman puzzle.
Yes, yay!
You see in the upper left, it says, what is who? The clue for that is boo or you follower. It's like you're playing Jeopardy, boo or you follower. Well, what is who? He also has who is what, which is Reagan's first interior secretary. The answer is who is how? The answer was inventor of the sewing machine. What is where? Massachusetts, birthplace of the 19th century feminist Elizabeth Packard. And what is why? W-Y-E, English River, site of the ruins of Tintin Abbey. So that was a fun Jeopardy. Here's a sample Newsday puzzle of Stan's for a Monday. I think there's 2 ways that Stan's puzzles stand out in Newsday. His Monday puzzles, he insists on every single answer being something that everybody will know. You know, like a New York Times Monday puzzle is pretty darn easy, but it's not a problem to have a couple of hardish words if the crossings are easy. Stan doesn't make any allowances for those. He insists that every answer be something common. And his hard puzzles are known as Saturday Stumpers, and I think they're probably harder than the Saturday New York Times crossword, but they're hard in a very specific way in that They have mind-blowingly difficult clues, often by vagueness, by general things, and he'll also test your trivia. Is that how you would describe them,
I
Stan?
believe there's less trivia, there's less factual information than most anybody's themeless.
Yeah, not so much testing your knowledge, but just really, really difficult clues. And there is an example of a nice themeless he's made for Newsday. Whoops. Then I was going to show one more puzzle. He also makes crosswords for hire, you might say. Here's a puzzle he made for the AARP that was full of trivia that older people might know.
From the late 60s to the early 2000s was my
His window there was late 60s to early 2000s, and more than 80% of the clues included trivia of that sort, and he made a very handsome grid along with that trivia. And then Stan competed, as he was the champion of the ACPT, as I mentioned, in 1982, and he's always been a top solver, but since the late 80s, would you say, Stan, you have been an official here at the tournament?
My first year as a tournament was 1986.
1986?
Finishing second in 1983, third in 1984.
Okay, he's reminding me. Okay, let me say this. In 1982, he won. 1982, he was finished second. 1984, he finished third. In 1985, he finished
fourth,
and then he decided he was going to retire and become an official. So he's always here as an official, and sometimes he does trivia games. This is a game he led in 2022 called Fact or Fake. Everyone would stand up, and he would give an amazing fact, but some of his facts he just made up. You would decide if it's true or false, and if you were right, you remained standing. If you didn't, you'd have to sit down. And Stan is really a master at trivia. And there's a history of Stan Newman and his puzzle world. We also have a film to show done by a friend of Stan's in Florida named C. Ron. What's his last name? Allen? C. Ron Allen.
He's a reporter for a living.
He's a professional reporter, and he came to Stan's place and interviewed him and showed you a little around his house. So I hope we can show that film. Is there anybody? Do we have that ready?
Is it the movie? Do they have the movie?
I think they have the movie.
I want to see it.
And if you don't have the movie, it is available online. Are you able to connect to the internet?
They don't have it. I don't know if they can play the audio as well. So.
They can't play the audio?
I don't know. So, where is it? Like, should go this way beforehand. No, they don't know. Just give it to me.
Okay, we'll show it later if we can. We have two people who are regular contributors to Newsday and Stan's works who would like to speak to the personal nature of what Stan is like as an editor, what he's like as a person to work with. One is Kevin Christian. Are you here? He's coming, and also Steve Mossberg. Steve, so Kevin will speak first.
No, sir.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody.
I'm supposed to play the movie, but no one, they don't have any movie.
So I've made
This may be
14
my
puzzles
fault.
for Stan since 2022. Stan is an editor. He collaborates on the puzzle with you. It's a co-construction. He wants to see the theme idea first, which makes him different than most other editors. Most other editors want you to just send in the fully clued grid, but that's not how Stan works. And it's kind of nice because once you've agreed on the theme, the puzzle is practically pre-accepted as long as you can build it to his exacting standards. Stan has a great sense of humor, a very open mind. He responds quickly, and his instructions are very, very clear, which I really appreciate. He's a very generous guy. He's given me a signed Nolan Ryan book, which I gave to my son, who's a big baseball fan. And he gave me a signed Gloria Steinem book, which I have in the hotel room, which I'm reading on the plane, flying back and forth to California on this trip. And he's a stickler for clean fill. You better know what the difference is between clean fill and not clean fill, and if you don't know, he will teach you. When I say that Stan has a little bit of a twisted sense of humor, so I had this idea. I noticed that socks and sandals had 15 letters, and I also noticed that fashion disaster had 15 letters. And so I thought, wouldn't it be great to have a crossword puzzle where there's like a cowboy hat and a Hawaiian shirt and Bermuda shorts and socks and sandals, because it would look really terrible if somebody was wearing that as their outfit. And Stan absolutely loved this puzzle. And he made a point of telling me in the hallway here at the ACPT that it was his, one of his favorite puzzles that year. And
Tell him the title.
And the title was Clash in Fashion. That was Stan's idea. We also did a puzzle about car washes, because the instructions of the car wash are you gotta have your windows up, the wipers off, the antenna down, and leave the key. And see, other editors didn't want this puzzle because they're like, well, antenna down, that's dated. Cars don't have antennas
if they can't,
anymore.
we'll just skip
and
it.
Stan's like, well, Stan's old enough, he remembers when cars had antennas. Plus, this car wash in my town that I go to has a sign, and it literally says these 4 things on it. We did a Muppet puzzle together because, it's not easy being green. It's not easy is 10 letters. Being green is 10 letters. That's begging to be put in a crossword puzzle with those answers paired with each other. And then you stick Kermit the Frog and Miss Piggy and Jim Henson in there, and that's a crossword puzzle. So anyways, thank you, Stan, for publishing my puzzles and for being a great editor.
Thanks. Where's Steve?
Right here.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, what a fantastic presentation to see and listen to. I've been a big fan of Stan's puzzles for quite some time. I'm pretty new at making crossword puzzles. I mostly make cryptic crossword puzzles, and I've only been going for about 5 years. I knew when I first started putting puzzles together that the thing I really, really wanted was to set a Saturday stumper, because this was my favorite puzzle to solve every week. If you solved the Saturday stumper, raise your hand if you've solved or attempted to solve. Fantastic. Good.
Hands again, please.
Yeah, that's on for this guy.
Thank you.
So, it was very clear in Stan's puzzle specs that those were only happening by commission. And so I got in touch with Stan and made some puzzles that were not Saturday stumpers, which was a tremendous experience. We did one called Crescendo that had dynamic markings in a rising pattern in the grid with entries to match. That last final touch, originally it was just sort of entries that had the things in them, and it was making Crescendo. And Stan had the idea of actually making it progressively louder things as it went, which was really a pleasure. I learned a lot on that one. And after we made some puzzles, I said, I'd really love to try to pitch you a stumper. And he said, well, fantastic, but you're going to need to send me a grid, and then we're going to do once you approve the grid, it was, would you please write me stumper level clues for 20 of these entries to make sure that you're doing the thing that's expected here. And so I did what I would usually do when learning to write clues, is to just really study what was going on in the clues. And so I tried to make things as difficult as I possibly could in the fashion that Stan was doing. And he said, yeah, you know what? I think a lot of these are really close. Let's clue the puzzle up. And I clued the puzzle up, and he kept some clues and he changed some clues, and I had a look at the puzzle, and I said, okay, I'm getting a little bit more of this. And we continued along those lines. For the year, I had a puzzle almost every month that year, and then I found Stan one morning here at the ACPT. I'm an early riser, I'm an elementary school teacher with a small child, and a very poor sleeper when I'm excited. So it was very early, and there's Stan in the lobby with the stumper, not the stumper that I wrote, a stumper that he wrote, and he said, well, let's solve it together. And I think this was the moment where I first started to see what we're really doing with the clues in a stumper puzzle, because I'm sitting there under the immense pressure of a very kind Stan Newman watching me solve it, but this is objectively terrifying, as I think you probably acknowledged. So as we're going through this puzzle and we're looking at stuff, I'm pinging around, I'm like, all right, where's my foothold? First realization is that there are no footholds, really. Secondly, I sort of thought, okay, well, I'm going to find the place, I'm going to build out from the place, and I'm going to do it in the way that you solve the Saturday puzzle. But the issue was that I couldn't find something I was 100% sure of. I look at these sort of pithy, fast-talking, a little bit salty clues, but they're very short and they're very powerful, and it's like, well, this could be 3 or 4 things. I know he's messing with me. Which way he's messing with me, I don't really know which way that is. And so I put an answer in, and I go, and you're erasing the answer, I'm going to try the one over here. And he said, you're going to need to play a little bit to make any headway here. And that was the moment I realized that there needs to be some courage and some gambling involved in taking down a stumper. After you appreciate, you allow yourself to be tricked, you allow yourself to be had. Stan gets to watch it happen to his great pleasure. And then you say, I see it, and then you begin to build things. And I think that's the nature of this number, and I think it's what makes it a really special puzzle. It was very special to be able to do that every month with you for a couple of years. I had a great time doing it, so thank you. And I was very new at it, to be brave and, how do I put it, to put the faith in someone who was pretty untested was a thing that I appreciated a lot, and it was wonderful working with you. Thank you for the wonderful puzzles and for having me along.
Nice job. All right, is it possible to show the film? One moment. We'll have to connect to the internet to do this. The previous recipients of this award, well, the first one was the great Maura Jacobson in 2016. In 2017, it was Manny Nasowski, then Nancy Salomon, Mike Shank, Patrick Berry, Emily Cox, and Henry Rathbon together in 2022. 2023 was Rich Norris, and last year was Andrea Carla Michaels. That's quite an august company. Nowadays, during the tournament, even though Stan is not a competitor, he likes to take the puzzle while everyone else is solving, and he's usually one of the fastest solvers.
I'm no Paulo Pascal.
Say again, what is that? Stan has quite a few books. Which one are you referring to? Oh, Cruciverbalism, that's true. I didn't show that. Stan is the author of a book called Cruciverbalism, which is partly memoir and partly just about the world of crosswords.
Instructional, mostly.
In an instructional book, and yes, it's very good. Does anybody have anything they would like to ask or say to Stan?
Uh-oh.
How dare you?
You're welcome.
Is Nolan Ryan a crossword puzzler?
The
No,
question,
I can explain that.
the question is Nolan Ryan a crossword puzzler?
It has nothing, my giving Kevin those books and all of my contributors once a year at the end of the year comes from my accumulation from the bookstores I visit of signed books, from cookbooks to sports to politics and
So
so
Stan collects books that have inscriptions by the authors.
Signed by famous people.
Signed by famous people. He has a massive collection of these. He's also loves to go to tag sales and yard sales looking for bargains. And
of ancient artifacts in particular.
of ancient artifacts, especially ones involving his heroes in the worlds of music or otherwise. So I'm afraid they can't show the film. It is available on YouTube, though. You can search on Stan Newman.
It's not opening up. The link is private or something. It's not.
We couldn't find a link to it, so it is available on the internet. Anyway, Stan, we have a presentation for you. So it's called Presented to Stan Newman, 2025 recipient of the Merl Reagle Memorial Award. Good job, Stan, good job.
Take the picture, take the picture.
It's over here.
I've got an important question for you.
Speak into that, yeah.
Second important question, since you're not showing the movie, can I talk for a little
Yes.
longer? Okay. So my stopwatch is like on
Just
mute.
go.
Yes. So I got to start by telling you this is a distinction that I never expected ever to receive. Simply because what this was supposed to be. How's that? That's our fourth
So,
down.
you could have told me this beforehand. I would have downloaded it.
Yeah, I should have, so 9 minutes.
They were really angry at the furnace. Like, oh, you're supposed to
Lifetime
tell us all these
achievement in
things.
crossword
okay.
construction.
Yes, it
I
is.
am known to more people as an editor, and the fact that I would even be considered for this was a real surprise. I really told Will as soon as he emailed me to tell me. I still don't exactly understand it, but after seeing what Will has chosen to highlight, it does appear that whatever skills I have brought to editing and bringing modern crosswords to all of you good people had something to do with it. And for that, I am very grateful to be recognized. And Will, thank you. Will has basically been witness to it all, and I must just give you a chronological list of the most influential people to put me here at this moment. You would think number one would be Will, but it's not. The person most influential, chronologically, is the person who made Will's presence at these events possible. Any of you know, Will told me once, and I've never forgotten it. Well, the answer is Eugene T. Maleska. He was contacted by this hotel when it was quite new, and they wanted Dr. Maleska, not Mr., to run a crossword event in a winter weekend to draw people here who wouldn't normally fill the hotel. You correct me if I'm wrong or close, please. Dr. Maleska had no interest in this, and he recommended a fellow who just happened to live in Stamford, Connecticut then, having nothing to do, I mean, you'll have to tell me someday why you were living in Stamford. And so he was given this, he had to figure out how to put it all together. And since I can talk for a couple of extra minutes, I knew about year one. I did the Times crossword every day. The ad was there, year one, year two, year three. I had no interest in attending, none at all. Why? To be as brief as I can, it was because of the Scrabble tournaments that I went to in my hometown of Brooklyn, 2 different years, from which I exited those 2 days. The closest adverbs in terms of it was utterly humiliating. I was a Scrabble player as a kid, and et cetera and so forth, but these were people in this sanctioned 2 tournaments that played a game with which I was unfamiliar. And I'm not going to go through that again, which is why 1, 2, 3, I was not here. Year 4, something different happened, and I promised not to give all of these details to you, but this was the first instance where I'd like to call fate pulled me in a different direction. For some reason, not in the first, second, or third, but in the 4th year, I figured, well, Scrabble, you don't have to know what the words mean, right? You can't use capital letters. There's no trivia in the Scrabble game. I thought just maybe the results might be different. Why I didn't do it the first, why the 4th and not, I don't know. So I showed up, well, no, explained what happened, I don't need to review that. And finishing 13th, I was delighted. And I knew when I drove home, I knew what I was going to do in the following year, and we'll describe that as well. And to my astonishment, I won. So astonished that I had to call my wife to get her to come up, the only time she's been at this hotel, by the way. She didn't have a driver's license. She had to get one of our close friends to drive her up, and he did, and he took a picture of Margaret Farragut handing me the trophy, which I still have on his Polaroid. I had no idea these additional photos even existed. Never seen them before. And you pretty much all know, you already know what happened as far as that tournament goes. And I expanded into other things, and partially because I never said no to anything that had been offered me. And what started out at Newsday, being paid exactly what my expenses were, to have turned into what it's become, again, I became syndicated because my literary agent went to every syndicate after I began at Newsday. Everyone said no, except a brand new syndicate company called Creators, who said no, but if you can sell 50 papers on your own, we will syndicate you. I didn't know at the time, I found out later, that almost nobody ever came back. Will remembers what to do. He knew all about this. I obtained copies of every American Sunday newspaper. It was this high in my basement office. I didn't pay a cent for them. I wasn't making very much money. How did I do that? By calling the advertising department saying, well, I'm with the American Crossword Federation, would like to advertise on your puzzle page. And they all sent it. First thing I did was throw out all the Sunday papers that ran the New York Times. No way on earth they were going to change their puzzle for this. That's good. Wasn't going to happen. Dumb luck. How did I convince crusty, steely, flinty features editors to run my puzzle instead of what they had? Through dumb luck. And this time I was following very closely what the other syndicated puzzles had in difficulty, style, accuracy. And you couldn't talk to a feature editor about a wrong verb tense or intransitive and transitive verbs as mistakes. Thanks to, God bless, the Los Angeles Times Syndicate, whose editor was totally unqualified for that job. How can I say that right now, years later? All right, boys and girls, hands on buzzers. How many signs are there to a stop sign? Come on, come on. They had a puzzle just within a couple of weeks of when I started. They had 6 sides of a stop sign. Here's one that's slightly tougher. How many faces on Mount Rushmore, class? They had 5. No joke. I put a directory of the feature editors, the decision makers of all those newspapers, and dear feature editor, Jones, Smith, Gonzalez, whoever it was, did you know that your paper on May 17th had this clue and about stop signs about Mount Rushmore? Maybe you ought to be interested in a puzzle that takes accuracy seriously.
Okay. 9 minutes. 9 minutes. When we start.
It took a total
It's 9
of
minutes
nearly 2 years, and it was very hard to get on the phone. I got to 50. Applause.
We have the film, so speed up.
Oh gosh, I got more time than I expected. I do have to, if this is the end of what I'm going to say, I need to say one more thing. I have fulfilled so much of what I had hoped for in my puzzle career, and more. I'm still doing deals. I'm not chasing corporate clients anymore. I don't have to do that. Somehow people find me, and when you own 11,000 Newsday crosswords, some organizations, particularly online, do have an interest in providing what I have to offer. But I have one unfulfilled dream as far as the Newsday crossword, and I want to share it with all of you. And thanks to the 2 constructors who have spoken just a few minutes ago, I hope they will put you in the right mood to help fulfill this dream. I'll bet there are some of you, maybe many of you, in this room who have either published in the New York Times, easy ones, medium ones, tough ones. I would like very dearly to create few of those puzzles myself. And since I have recently raised the rates that I can pay, thanks to the online presence of my puzzles, I would hope that at least a handful of you might like to send me your puzzles occasionally. This is blatant advertising, I know. But if I'm ever going to do it to this group, this is the time, right? There is, thank you. The way to do it, if you do, I'm not giving you every detail, but if you go do a Google search on the specific 3 words, Google crossword specs, S-P-E-C-S, it'll take you to a spreadsheet that gives details on all of the major newspaper crosswords. I'm not quite major, but I'm there.
You're a major.
Thank you. It will have my spec sheet, the payment rates, and how to contact me via email. Please don't all of you do this at once. But even a small handful of you, if I can get to know, and I thank my constructors, Kevin and Steve, for saying those nice things. I did not prompt them or assist them in any way, and I'm quite grateful. I hope to hear from some of you. I would like certainly more younger people. I would like more women. I've always have run a lot of women. It didn't matter to me who they were and where they were from. I've even got constructors now, one in Brazil, who's native speaker of Portuguese. I won't tell you his story, but he's a young kid and makes easy puzzles, and he's great at it. And that's about all I have to say about that. I thank you for your kind attention, and Will, I'm mystified a little less thanks to the wonderful things you've said, without whom, yeah, I've had a literary agent, I've had people I've known who knew me. By the way, raise your hands if you've experienced in your life, not that it's not what you know, but who you know. In my case, my peculiar career path has been what's been responsible. It's not what I knew, it's the fact they knew me, not the other way around. And without Will, of course, I wouldn't be here. But there were people who knew me thanks to the various contacts they made that made so much of the other stuff possible. And to Will, of course I could never do enough. I'm going to keep walking up and down the aisles, and even then, if I have to be pushed, I'm going to keep walking down the aisles, picking up papers for the next maybe 37 years or so. And even then, well, I might walk a little slow or be wheeled a little slow, but I'm going to do it anyway. Thank you all for being here and being so kind to me.
Is a man whose life is as intricate and engaging as the puzzles he has been creating over the past 37 years.
I was the best person in the room by far. And I won the 1982 tournament in Connecticut. And just like don't want to get fate moving, it's huge hat. This was the first year.
I think you'll like the next part.
Stick around. Like those guys at the ID stuff, they were not happy at all.
Okay.
And they were like,
I'll go apologize to
there's no
them.
need to apologize.
From a math major at Brooklyn College to a celebrated figure in the world of
Yeah.
White radio.
Yeah, that was my fault. I was so focused on the PowerPoint, I forgot about that.
Stan's love for puzzles began early.
They looked at me like
As
I
a
was
child,
stupid or something.
he was
Radio.
Sorry.
No, not your fault. It's fine.
It was my fault.
That would later become his life's work. His passion for crosswords was ignited when he won the inaugural U.S. Open Crossword Championship in 1982.
I have here a bound copy of Things magazine that covered the tournament and the sponsor. Here is a picture of me holding my championship pencil, having just defeated my two dazed competitors in a very tough crossword, which is
And there you were in the shorts again.
well, I wore the shorts. It was the sloppiest clothes I owned, so I could be comfortable. And that was commented upon, but no, there were no dress code things.
There goes Will over there as well.
There's Will back in his young
days.
Ever since college, I always had what wasn't called then, but was that called now, a side hustle, like doing math. It turned out calculus was really tough for a lot of the students in the Brooklyn College and the grad school I went. And so I thought that I, as a hobby, could begin making crosswords. And so for fun,
Thanks for sticking around and working us out. I
tried to
appreciate
figure
it.
out what is what and how to get the words to
Stick
fit.
around.
Just
Stick
roll by
around.
hand.
It's only another
Figured out
45
what I
minutes.
needed to do fairly early
Then I'll
on,
join you.
And got published in 1983, the year after I won those tournaments. And from there, having the notion that this could be a side hustle,
I'll be back in like 20 minutes.
I recognized that where the action was not really making puzzles, but being the house, the casino. And so I wanted to become a crossword editor with no experience. How does that happen? Well, I did find my own path. How did I do that? By starting my own publication. This was called by a colleague of mine when he wrote a history of puzzles. This was the first social network. It was not only puzzles of various difficulties, there were questions and answers. There was a column I wrote called Crossword Confidential. All the things going on, good or bad. And it was where I began taking pot shots at Will Shortz's predecessor at the Times, whose sensibilities and knowledge of pop culture really didn't go much further than Rosie the Riveter in World War II. and you can laugh, but it really was the case. And people who paid $20 a year to get my newsletter felt the same way. And that led to various articles, and even the New York Times itself, the controversy made. Of course, the puzzle editor of the New York Times then, a former teacher and superintendent of schools, didn't take kindly to this nobody criticizing his work.
A victory that marked the beginning of his illustrious career. His success in the tournament was not just a personal triumph, but a stepping stone that led him to become the editor of the Newsday Sunday Crossword Puzzle in 1988 and the Daily Crossword Puzzle in 1992.
I was running crossword tournaments, doing everything I could to see what would work, and it turned out most everything did.
What sets the former Wall Street executive apart is not just his skill with words, but his unique personality. Known for his quick wit and sharp intellect, he has a knack for making even the most challenging puzzles seem approachable. His colleagues often describe him as a walking encyclopedia, a man who can recall obscure facts and trivia with ease.
Trivia encyclopedia with all kinds of stuff in it, with an index, everything from singers who appeared in John Wayne films to the 12 people who walked on the moon, and everything else in between.
Karen Elaine Johnson.
It is Whoopi Goldberg's middle name, thank you for asking.
Jesus Christ.
The shortest verse in the Bible. Do I know everything that's in there? Maybe, but something less than everything is still in my head for quick recall.
This talent was showcased when he appeared on the television game show The Challengers in 1990, where he became the biggest winner, taking home a grand total of $112,480.
$1,000 who wrote that diary. Peace, you are right there. For $12,214, your fastest survey rating, and the grand total is I can't get it up there on the board. You won
$112,480. Despite his impressive achievements, Stan remains remarkably down to earth. He and his wife Marlene live in Amityville, New York, and Boynton Beach, Florida. They have 3 grown children. Both homes reflect his eclectic interests, filled with books, puzzles, and memorabilia from his various trivia competitions. Stan's love for trivia is not just a hobby, but a way of life. He was a regular contestant at the Allentown, Pennsylvania Trivia Bowl, held twice annually, where for about 15 years he impressed with his vast knowledge. Stan's approach to crossword puzzles is both innovative and inclusive. He believes that puzzles should be accessible to everyone, regardless of their skill level.
What is the creative process? To me, and I've taught classes on creativity at the Smithsonian, where does creativity come from in a person? Whether you're an artist, a poser, an author, or a crossword editor, where do ideas come from? They're all around you. Most people don't see them, but if you're an artist and keeping your mind open for inspiration, it can be all around you, in a movie you watch, on a billboard you see, in a book you read.
Stan's impact on the world of crosswords extends beyond his role as an editor. He has authored and edited more than 200 books on puzzles and trivia. His contributions to the field have been recognized with numerous awards, cementing his stature as a crossword legend. Each puzzle is a miniature masterpiece, a testament to his creativity and dedication. Stan Newman's story is one of passion, perseverance, and a deep love for the art of crossword puzzles. His quirky personality and humanistic approach have made him a beloved figure in the world of puzzles, and his legacy continues to inspire and delight solvers around the globe. Whether you're a seasoned solver or a novice, there's no denying the magic of a Stan Newman puzzle.
This book has sold the most by far of any book I've ever done.
Congratulations, Stan. Well, we are ready for our second part of our program tonight. I'll tell you how it started. It was in the late winter or early winter of 2005. I got a call from Mr. Patrick Creedon, who he and his wife have done advertising films about advertising, but they were thinking about doing a documentary on crossword puzzles, and they asked if I would be interested in or willing to take part in it. And my feeling is I'll say yes to almost anything. I thought whatever they do might eventually appear on late night TV. So I said yes, and their documentary turned out to be Wordplay, which was released in theaters in 2006 and became one of the 25 highest grossing documentaries of all time. So Patrick and his wife, Christine, who is the producer of the movie, are here to show us some excerpts from the film and to discuss it. So Patrick and Christine, will you come to the front?
Will, should we do it from the center, or should we do it over here?
Do it wherever you'd like, wherever you'd like.
Okay. All right, is this okay? Can you guys hear us okay? All right, let's do this. I'm Patrick, this is Christine. Do you want to see it? Okay. It's really great to be here. And it's very emotional for us to be here. 20 years ago, we walked into this hotel, and it felt like we were walking into a family reunion. And we had never met any of you people before. But this just felt like home, and we'd never even been here before. A friend of ours, when we told him that we were going to make our first film, we had decided we have a great idea. We're going to make a great documentary, and we're really excited. And he's like, that's fantastic. What's it about? And Christine said to him, it's about crossword puzzles. And he said, that's the worst idea I've ever heard in my life. Good luck with that. And the rest is kind of history. Do you have anything you want to add before we play our... We're gonna play 5 clips from the film, and there's gonna be a very special song at the end from a very, very, very special friend. Anything you want to add? Okay, so we're going to play the clip. So Ruben and Michael, who are in the back of the room, they're really the brain trust tonight, and they're awesome. So Ruben, if you want to take it away with clip number 1, please. Here it comes.
Yeah. Thanks, I'm good.
I'm actually not keeping track of anything this year. I forgot to write down my time on the first puzzle, and I said, okay, it's a sign. Hopefully I don't screw that one up, because that would, yeah. If I did screw up, I don't want to find out about it until much later, so I'm just not totally deflated for the rest of the tournament. Yeah, I felt good on that puzzle. I think I might have been the first one to finish that one. They finish right before the minute. So if you finish at 2:53 and you take 10 seconds, you're going to lose a whole minute. So I just raised my hand and turned it in and didn't check. So if I made a stupid mistake on that, then it's all over. So hopefully I didn't. But
I had to erase too many times. I mean, obviously one across. I think everybody did it. Part of QED. All right.
I just missed the minute, but that's,
10:05.
Okay, so here's a question we both wanted to know for a long time. With a show of hands, how many people in this room appear in the movie Wordplay? And then, of course, the second question, how many people in the room have never seen Wordplay and are sure you're in the wrong room right now? Okay, Ruben has never seen the movie, so we'll have to get a copy. Has everyone else seen the movie? Awesome. Okay, good. Yeah, I think the reason we wanted to show that clip is it kind of speaks to the problem that our friend had, which is like, how are you going to make that interesting? Like, people solving crossword puzzles, like, it's going to be fun. It's like, you've never been to the American Crossword Puzzle. That place is crazy. It's really intense, and it's fun, and it's funny, and punny, and competitive, and warm, and it's all these things rolled into one. So, in some ways, it's sort of like, I think the entire time that we were making the movie, before it was finished, we spent 1 year making it. We just really felt like we had something. We just really did. So Christine was going to explain a little bit about what happened once we finished the film.
Oh, so, well, the one thing I just wanted to bring up, because Patrick mentions this, like we knew what the American Crossword Puzzle Tournament was, and we did not. We had no idea about it. And when we reached out to Will to ask him if we could explore this idea of doing a story on crossword puzzles, because we were such fans, and so many of our family and friends were fans, in that initial conversation with Will, he said, well, sure, I'd be amenable to that, I think is the right word, right? But he said, and you'll be coming to the crossword puzzle tournament, right? To which we said, of course we will be coming. As soon as you tell us where it is and what it is, we'll definitely be there. So that was our introduction to the tournament. And I will say that one thing that Will said to us that has stuck with me since my entire career is, he said, well, I'm happy to introduce you to some folks, but there's another project that's being made right now. They're filming something else. And I don't know where these guys are with their project, and I don't even know whatever happened with it, but that's a question I'll have to ask you later. But he did say, if I'm going to introduce you to this community, I really want to make sure that you are really going to make this film, because you're going to be spending a lot of time with them and taking time away from them solving and participating at the tournament. So I just want to make sure you're really going to do it. And that was such a meaningful, such a great bit of advice that I've carried with me through my whole documentary career, because it really is an invitation to come into somebody else's world and follow you all around and see what you're doing and try to find and capture some of the magic and hopefully turn that into the film that eventually you get to see. So I always wanted to thank you for that advice, Will. And then, what were you talking about?
What happened when we submitted the film to our
right. So as Patrick was saying, this was a very big event for us in our lives. This was the first film that we made together, and we were accepted at the Sundance Film Festival, which was tremendously exciting. We had no idea what to expect, and we had no idea what we were supposed to do. So we just thought we should bring everybody with us, which it turns out that's not what everybody does. But so much of this community came to Park City, and not only participated in Q&As and photo shoots and stayed in a condo which became dubbed the Puzzle Palace by the press. So it became just this wonderful, extraordinary event for us that we're so thankful to you all for including us, and it was like taking a little bit of the tournament with us on the road, so it's really quite fun.
Yeah.
Show the other clip.
Sure, so we got a number 2.
So when I took over the job at the Times in 1993, I thought I really understood puzzle solvers. It's addressed to Mr. Will Shortz, the smart-ass crossword puzzle editor. This one on Saturday was ridiculous. You should be hanged by your cojones for this Monday puzzle. Give me a break. I couldn't solve it, even with the answers in front of me. Dear sir, it's Monday, Mr. Shortz, not Friday. This is both idiotic and completely unfair. This kvetching thing that's going on, I can't seem to get a grasp on it. Who in the hell ever heard of 3 letters in a single box? The kvetchers call it oy I don't get it. And how is it used? Is it a northern thing? Sir, but toes do not. They waddle. You have managed to take all the fun out of it. Congratulations. No wonder Ronald Buckley stopped doing these puzzles. You are sick of me. Sincerely. Yes, you're sick. Arithmetic solvers is the best part of the job. Never for anything else, but those are all secondary things. The biggest thing is to stretch people's brains and bring joy to their lives.
Auction again, come on. You're trying to trick me into signing up to think about auction? It's not really about that. It's just about selling, isn't it?
My name is John Stewart, and I tell dumb jokes for money.
Come on, to you!
I am a Times puzzle fan. I will solve in a hotel, the USA Today, but I don't feel good about myself. I feel like you're doing one of them circle things where you find a word. These are all flowers. So the Times puzzle is the one for me. Asps.
Come on, Shortz! Bring it! Pile up!
When you imagine a crossword guy, you imagine he's 13, 14 inches tall, doesn't care to go more than 5 feet without his inhaler. And yet, he's a giant man. He's the Errol Flynn of crossword puzzle. Meeting him in person, I definitely thought, geez, I was planning on taking your lunch money, but now I believe you could best me in a physical joust, if you will. So I backed off immediately. I respect very much those that create the puzzles. I don't know how they do it. Quite frankly, I don't know why they do it.
It's got to be at the end of unkind donuts. I've had a few of them every day. My name is Merl Reagle. I'm a syndicated crossword puzzle constructor.
Merl is a great guy. We've been friends for years. He's like me in many ways. He was a puzzle head from when he was a child. He started making crosswords when he was in his teens.
Normally, I'm either thinking of puzzles, or cluing them here, or cluing them there, or thinking of themes for puzzles. Noah's Ark right there. You switch the S and the H on, that's no, a shark. There's a part of the day available for me to actually do normal things with the people I love.
Okay. So I could talk for a very long time about Merl. And I obviously don't want to do that because I'll get all weepy. But I just do want to add something that I thought it was so cool of Will when we started working together with him to say, you got to meet my friend Merl, because Will said, he's like, I'm not really a constructor, but Merl's really terrific. He's really funny, and it really kind of, like Will and Merl together were like an amazing 1-2 punch in the film. And it was such a pleasure to get to know Merl throughout the making of the film. And people still come up to me, like people I don't even know will just come up to me and just say, unkind donuts. Which is kind of great. But yeah, it's really nice to see him. It's just nice to see Merl in this room again. And congratulations to Stanley again. Stanley, awesome. Okay, so we have 3 more clips, and like I said, we have 1 song. Does anyone have any, before we go to the next clip, does anybody have like a question or a comment or something? Yes, right here. That hand shot right up.
What did your friends say when WordPlay came out and all the success?
Well, to be honest with you, the question was, what did our friends say who said that's like the worst idea we've ever heard? And then, you know, for those of you who don't know, we went to Sundance and the movie it blew up at Sundance. And for those of you who were there, like Tyler and Will and Al Sanders, ladies and gentlemen, right here. We just became the talk of the festival. And that was due to a couple of things. I'm going to get to I will get to that answer. But the other documentaries that were in competition that year, by the way, there were 760 American documentaries that were submitted, and they took 16 films, including WordPlay. So we knew right away, like, this is a big deal. Like, this is like the Super Bowl of film festivals, and we're going to it. And then when we got there and we started reading about the other films, the other 15 films, they were really serious topics. Like, there were 5 movies about the Iraq War. I'm not exaggerating. There were 5 movies about that topic. And other topics that were serious, very good films. They weren't Unkind Donuts, though. I mean, that's that. And so in a way, like, we were like this incredible piece of like counter-programming. The press loved the idea of the Puzzle Palace. They all wanted to meet Will. They all wanted to meet the puzzlers. We sold the movie, this is public knowledge, but we sold the movie for $1 million on Tuesday night, which was cool. I mean, it was cool, but what was even more cool was that there was a guarantee that they would spend $3 million promoting the film, that it would open in 25 cities around the country, and it ended up playing in over 500 movie theaters in all 50 states. Now, the irony of it all is, at the end of those 2 years, first year of making WordPlay, second year of releasing WordPlay, it was like 2 years, start to finish. After all was said and done, Christine and I made exactly as much money as we had our previous year working as a freelance cameraman and working as a freelance producer. It wasn't like, it ended up not being like a huge payday for us, but what it did was it launched our careers. And we've never looked back. Christine has produced over 25 documentary films now. And how many of you saw Taylor Swift, Miss Americana? Did you guys see that one? That was one of Christine's movies, which is pretty fantastic, among many, many others. I guess I didn't answer your question. At the end of that 2-year run, and just it was an incredible, magical run, our friend came to us, and he had just produced a film of his own, a documentary, and he wanted some advice, and we were trying to help him with navigate a few things. And I ended up saying to him, I'm like, well, what do you want with your film? What are you trying to do? And he said, I want to do a word play. That's what I want to do. So that's kind of to answer your question. Okay, we should get on to the next clip, I think. So the next clip, Ruben, take it away.
It's kind of late tonight, so I'm a little tired, so we'll see what I can do. But we'll see if we can get at least below 2:30 on this one. So, okay, so ready, set, go. Confirm entry there, so that's good. This is about cheese, it looks like, so everything has to do with cheeses. Start talking and keep going here. I'd say crosswords to me are probably an obsession. Certainly in the couple of months before the tournament, I kind of have this phase I seem to have worked my way into where, you know, everything leads up to the tournament. And because there's one of these a year. Okay, let's see when to stop. Good news. Chance. I've been in the finals for a number of years, and I know people must think, oh great, Al's in the finals again, there's another third place finish, you know, so I kind of have a little something to prove there at least. You know, the whole puzzle calendar pretty much revolves around Stanford, and you know, there's nothing else like it in the crossword world, so you gotta be there. They always talk about the winners, you know, they announce the former champions at the beginning of the tournament. You know, sure, coming in the top 3 for, you know, 5 or 6 years in a row, it's great and it's really cool, but I mean, there's just something special about actually being a champion that, you know, it's not like, you know, winning a major in golf or something, but it's within the crossword puzzle world, it kind of has that same cachet, so it would be something that, you know, you'd remember forever, so. I really hope sometime, you know, in the next few years, I can close the deal and win one of these things. Deal 2. I can never get out of 10 minutes. Someday I'll get a 159 out of here, but that's my second fastest one ever, so. And I didn't stop and check, I did have it all filled in, so. Yeah, that was pretty good.
Let's see, Tony Cross. Franklin Roosevelt's middle name, excitement. Wait, that don't fit.
Maybe you could use some help. FDR's middle name, Delano, oxidized surface. Well, that's rusty. Bartenders serve them dirty.
Ham sandwich.
No, martini. Singer and gentle, 13 letters.
First of all, Al, it was amazing that you let Patrick film that. That was like, so it was, I think it was just the two of you, and that scene is really the first scene that we cut with our amazingly talented graphics person, Brian Oakes, who's responsible for all the graphics in WordPlay. And the thing that I think our friend who had such doubts in us making this movie in the beginning, he was challenging us to figure out like what's visual about solving crossword puzzles. How does that make sense in a movie? I mean, I understand how you do them, but how does that make sense in a movie? And because of that moment and Al allowing Patrick to film that, and that happens all in real time, and Brian being able to see the visual connection of how you can experience the emotional, you know, the intensity of watching somebody solve, but also like how things are getting filled in and how your brain is working. It was just like, it was like unlocking the mystery to this film for us. So it was an incredibly exciting breakthrough, and that really sent us in the direction that we took with the film. The Simpsons paying homage to it was like next level. Like that just does not ever happen. And the fact that they found a similar cue, like everything about that is like such a direct connection to wordplay. And what we didn't include in the clip is that at the end of the episode, in case you haven't seen it, Merl and Will are actually on The Simpsons, which is also completely crazy. Doesn't ever happen in documentaries. So it's just another one of the charmed things that happened as a result of making this film. But really, it's credit to you, Al, for being so open to us and brave and letting us be there for that.
Great fun.
We have a question maybe over on this side of the room. Okay, another hand shot right up.
Did you ever think about making a sequel?
Would we ever think about making a sequel? There's actually hidden cameras all around the world. You're not aware of that, but I could never imagine touching wordplay in any way, shape, or form. I mean, I just finished directing my 9th movie, which will be coming out later this year, and we don't see it yet, so you know see how that goes. But we talk about this all the time. Everything with wordplay was perfect. Like, it really was. Everything just fell into place. Like, we had a camera that got stolen on the way out here to shoot the tournament. We had a little camera that we were going to use, like, to shoot up at people's faces and things, but it was stolen at the airport. But then I got to town and I told my cousin who lived nearby, and he got a friend who came over with 2 cameras, like the ones we were going to use. So then we had suddenly we had twice as many of those hidden cameras around the room, shooting up at like Tyler's face when he's solving, or Al when he's solving the 6th puzzle or the 7th puzzle, the one that he had to race to finish. It just over and over and over and over, every single thing that we had wanted or that we hoped could work out just worked out. And so I don't think we'll be doing a sequel. But I guess never say never, but yeah. Any other, maybe one more question right here.
On the topic of things working out, how'd you get Jon Stewart to appear?
That's a great segue to our next clip. So let's play. Ruben, are you ready for number 4? Coming at you.
Just one more note about projecting the presidential results before all the polls are closed. For a while today, before any polls closed, we thought the New York Times had been particularly flagrant. Take a look at the Times Crossword puzzle. The clue is the same for numbers 39 and 43 across. Lead story in tomorrow's newspaper. 39 across, Clinton. 43 across, elected. But surely the Times wouldn't go out on a limb like that. No, the crossword editor is much too diabolical. So rearrange a few words, and the answer to 39 and 43 across is Bob Dole, elected.
In this election day 96 puzzle, to make it clever, it was blank elected. And blank is 7 letters, and it could be Clinton or it could be Bob Dole, and it turns out it can be both because they figured out 7 downward answers where at each point the corresponding letter fit the clue. So in the first one it could be B or C, the second one could be O or L, third one could be B or I, fourth one would be D or N. I mean, that's an amazing thing, you know, just to be able to think of that. Half the time I do these things, just see what people are thinking about. So I worked it and I made a copy and sent it to Dole. After calling him and telling him we both won after all.
Of course, the whole election in 96 was a puzzle to me. I got the early edition of the Times that day and I won. And he also got 4 more years in the White House.
The Sunday Times crossword puzzle had a reputation of being formidable, and at some point in my life we began to get the Sunday Times. And when I was president, I think I worked more than ever before. I worked no telling how many hundreds and hundreds of crossword puzzles. But yeah, I find it very relaxing, you know, and I really found it relaxing in the White House because, you know, just for a moment, you know, you take your mind off whatever you're doing. I sometimes do it at lunch if I was eating alone. Sometimes you have to go at a problem the way I go at a complicated crossword puzzle. Sometimes I picked up a Saturday New York Times crossword puzzle, and I'll go through way over half the clues before I'll know the answer to one. And then you start with what you know the answer to, and you just build on it. And eventually you can unravel the whole puzzle. And so I rarely work a puzzle of any difficulty from one across and one down all the way to the end in a totally logical fashion. And I think a lot of difficult, complex problems are like that. You have to find some aspect of it you understand and build on it until you can unravel the mystery that you're trying to understand. Nearly anybody can learn nearly anything they need to know. Nature has something to do with it, but I think nurture has something to do with it. I mean, I think nature made Einstein's massive brain and made him what he was. But nurture can make nearly everyone seem to be above average intelligence if they have the right sort of nurturing early, as well as the right kind of formal schooling and academic challenges and adults who believe in them when they're children. So I really believe it's a little bit of both, but I think most of us are, we're all capable of doing more than we think. 31. And I don't want a Florida license plate, that's humanity, I know that.
So to answer your question about Jon Stewart, we have to go back to Bill Clinton. So, because Patrick and I, at this point, have no relationships. We're nobody. Nobody really needs to take our call or sit for an interview.
We're still nobody.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. But we didn't even have people's phone numbers at that point. So we really were sort of, just starting out. And we knew, I think from Merl, but from some other folks, about some famous people that were known crossword puzzle solvers. And we wanted to figure out if we could interview them, and we said it in the film. And Jon Stewart was on our list right from the get-go, and he was, getting through to him through his publicist and his manager was impossible. And we also knew we wanted to interview President Clinton. And it was at that first trip to the tournament where we met George Vic Fleming, and he happened to be from Little Rock and have this connection to President Clinton, and we could not believe our good fortune when he was nice enough to basically make a call on our behalf to tell President Clinton that we weren't completely nuts and scary, that we would be, it would be worth the time to sit and talk with us. So that was a huge, huge move for us. And this took a long time to schedule, obviously. He had lots more important things to do than to talk about crossword puzzles. It's hard to believe, but he did. So we had a couple of meetings that would get canceled, and during this time I was trying to work with Jon Stewart's people to try to get him to sit for an interview, and his publicist was so harsh, and he was like, "No way, what are you doing? No way, stop calling me." And finally, we scheduled the interview with President Clinton in New York, and I made one last effort to call Jon Stewart's people, and I said, "We're coming to New York to interview President Clinton. Do you think that Jon Stewart might agree to the interview?" And he was like, "I'll call you back." He did, and John agreed, and then getting everybody else from there was a lot easier.
Yeah, anything I can add. It was kind of funny because about a year after the movie came out, Christine's brother Sean O'Malley was in New Hampshire, and he was at a wedding. And this happened to be during the primaries in 2008. And they're at this big bar, restaurant, whatever, and the door swings open, and here comes Secret Service, here comes Chelsea, here comes Hillary, here comes a whole army of people, and the last guy through the door is President Clinton. And everyone goes to the back of the restaurant to a private room. President Clinton walks up to the bar, asks for a beer, and says, "Who's winning the Celtics game?" And he stood there and met with people, talked to people, everyone wanted pictures with him. And then Chris's brother, Sean, my brother-in-law, he just was thinking to himself, if I don't go up and tell him that my sister made wordplay, I'm gonna regret it for the rest of my life. So he gets up his courage and he walks up and he's like, excuse me, Mr. President, I just want to tell you that my sister and my brother-in-law, and he's like trying to catch his breath, he's just nervous. He's like, they're the filmmakers who made wordplay. And at that moment, according to Sean, no one else in the room mattered. No one in the room mattered except for Sean. And he sat there and talked to Sean for a good 10 or 12 minutes about how much he loved being in that movie. He's like, I get interviewed for all sorts of things that are really serious. Nobody ever asked me about Crossword. Was to be in our little movie that we made in our spare bedroom. And at the end of the night, when everyone left, and by the way, when President Clinton finally did go to have dinner, everyone in the room's like, who was that guy talking to the president? We're having like a really intense conversation. It must have been really important. So then when they were all leaving, everyone was leaving, they all went to the front door to leave, and President Clinton stopped and walked over to Sean and said, please tell your kinfolk I said hello. Okay, so let's move on to our fifth and final clip, and then as I told you, we have a very special cherry on top of the sundae. So the final clip tonight is really, I don't want to say too much, but to me, in some ways, this scene is kind of the heart and soul of the whole movie. So, Ruben, no pressure, but this is the really important clip. Okay, let her rip.
The performers are in double act.
Look, you're a little verklempt. Talk amongst yourselves. Interestingly, though, I see them every year, and they look the same. I mean, you know them, they look the same from year to year, and then I suddenly realize I've known these people for 27 years. Some of them, they've changed. So have I. You don't see the change from year to year. This is hard to say. In 1981, I lost my husband, and it was on Sunday afternoon here, right after the competition. He had a heart attack. Some people said, you know, it's a little hard to come back here, but he wanted me to do it. He was very proud of the fact that I had won, and in his memory, I would not stop coming back. But it's a little bit hard for me to walk out the front of the front door there. I like to go out the other way. And I can still picture him coming through the door. There are people who we've lost who aren't back, and the place is haunted. I can still see faces. I can still see people here who are no longer here. Not an unpleasant kind of haunting for that, in that respect.
Home is where I want to be. Pick me up and turn me on. I come home. I'm born with a weak heart. I guess I must be having fun. I guess we say goodbye to bed. Got plenty of
up to you and asked you how you did in Puzzle 5, and then you told me like the most powerful story in the whole movie. And I just want to thank you for sharing that with us. Thank you. Nobody wants to see me cry, so we better bring Vic Fleming up to call this a grand finale. Is Stella here? Where's Stella? Is Stella in the room? Stella Daly, and I don't know how to pronounce. I know I have a hard time with her married name. Stella's not here. Okay, so it'll just be the three of us then. Ladies and gentlemen, Vic Fleming.
Is my mic on? Can you hear me? Okay. You can also say, you can talk to this real quick. Go ahead. Turn this on. Are we okay now? Can you hear me? No. Well, that's probably good for you. How about now? Now? Okay, got it.
Anything you want to say?
Yeah, I think you guys have really done a great job. But, you know, the whole experience of WordPlay kind of jump-started my career as a Christian verbalist. But, thanks for the acknowledgments. And what are we going to do? We're going to...
Well, the one thing I'll say, hopefully we don't have feedback, I'll switch places with you, Chris, is that Friday night when we were shooting the tournament, I was out talking to people out here, and then Christine's like, I need you to come into the other room to videotape something. And I was like, I'll be in there in a minute. She's like, I kind of need you to come right now. And she's like, Judge Fleming is going to play his song, and I think it would be really cool if that was in the film. And so I ran in here, and this was one of our favorite scenes in the movie. And we thought we would close out the show with this song. I think you know the song pretty well, and if you want to sing along, we'd love to have you. So ladies and gentlemen, Vic Fleming.
The pay or play extender is Ola, not Olay. And it's anti that you want, not anti, when the clue is pay to play. You can edit out, add it on your IBM, Mulan, Malmy, Tiny Tim, but if you don't come across, I'm gonna be down. Well, it's Estee, not Estes, if you want the cosmetics queen. Isla's Artie is a Johnson, seen on the TV screen. Lou is a John on the British Isle. Ryan and Co both ran the mile, and if you don't come across, I'm gonna be down. If you don't come across, I'm gonna be down. If you don't come across, I'm gonna be down. Your love to me is a mystery, and the clues are all around. If you don't come across, I'm gonna be down. You're an easy fill on Mondays. When the weekends come, your themeless open spaces make me feel so dumb. Triple stacks, absurdity, pop culture and obscurity. If you don't come across, I'm gonna be down. And everybody sings, if you don't come across, I'm gonna be down. If you don't come across, I'm gonna be down. Your love to me is a mystery, and the clues are all around. If you don't come across, I'm gonna be down. One more time with feeling. If you don't come across, I'm gonna be down. If you don't come me is a mystery, and the clues are all around. If you don't come across, I'm gonna be down.
Our 20th anniversary look back on WordPlay. Thanks again to Judge Bill Fleming. Thanks to Ruben and Mike in the back of the room for doing an awesome job. Thank you guys. Very special thanks to Al Sanders and to Tyler and anyone else who took the time to let us come into your lives and tell a little bit of your story. And most of all, obviously, Will. Will, when we called you, you didn't know who we were. You had no reason to really even call us back and bother, but you did. And the fact that you said yes has had a profound impact on our lives. And we could not be more grateful. So thank you very, very much. We love you very much. Thanks to all of you.
That brought tears to my eyes. Fantastic. Great job. All right.
Thank you all, everybody. First round to Puzzle 7 tomorrow at 9 o'clock. See you then.
I should have brought password. We could have played password.
Oh, boy, that was good.
Thank you.
That was a Monday news day. Those were the ones.
But like, of course. In retrospect, in a way, maybe we did.
Right.
All the folks on the stage of that. Later. Vic, that was great.
Thanks, Al.
Brought back a lot of memories, huh?
Oh my gosh.
So much fun. So good to see you. Where do you folks head back to today? Tornadoes or snow? Yeah. I hope really? Oh no.
Yeah, we're hoping to. A lot of rain.
Nice to see you all.
I hope everything's okay.
We're hoping it is. Yeah, we had a couple of years ago, a big flood or a tree fell on our fence, which was 25 yards away from our house. It broke our fence in two places, and we had to get the tree cut out. And the fish were here. So we're hoping that can happen.
I love this song.
Oh yeah.
Amanda, remember Amanda? So pretty.
Can't just be careful.
Thank you.
I still resent myself because my ass was in that film 3 times. Shut up.
No, I was going to say that I wouldn't stick.
David,
I don't have the best legs in the world.
you guys are judging, right?
Yes.
My puzzles 5 and 6 did not get, they got scanned, but no scores appear.
That's a tech issue. That I mean, I can mention that, or you can.
Nancy,
talk to Nancy Parsons.
She got rectified immediately. She did it from.
Is she around here, or is she gone already?
If you want to write a note
I put the thing where it says, "Is there a problem?" and I put.
Okay, then I'm sure they're addressing it then.
Okay, because I was like, why do I have no points?
No, but you weren't the only